Hello again. Welcome back to the Educatedcollins Snap channel. How you doing? So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about Marvel Snap cards that you should probably snap before you play them. So this is just I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do for today, and I wanted to talk about Sandman and stuff and make a deck for it, but I figured it kind of evolved into this video, so yeah, that's the idea here. So let's just get started. So generally, there are some Marvel Snap cards where it's probably makes sense that to snap before you play them, because by playing them, you're telling them something, or the percentages are in your favor when they come down in the right moments. That if you want to like be full try hard, like take full advantage of what you have, it makes sense to put the snap out before they get that knowledge of, oh, they're playing this, they're doing that. So I want to go over the different types of cards they are. We're not covering every single card in the game that fits those archetypes, but I just want to kind of give you examples to kind of have a general sense so you can kind of transfer it over when new cards are added in the game, etc. So before we start, right, you have to use your brain before you snap. You can't mindlessly snap because you have one of these particular cards. That's not really how the game works. You have to kind of take advantage of what the locations are, where your opponent's playing, how they're playing, etc. You have to be paying attention. You can't say, "Oh, I have this one card. Colin said I should snap every time. I'm gonna snap. Ooh, I lost hundreds of cubes. Yeah, that's your fault. Don't blame me for that." So, just keep that in mind. This is a general guide. You have to be paying attention to it. So, let's get further. So, first type is archetype cards. So these cards kind of reveal your game plan and you give your opponent enough information whether you should stay or leave. So essentially, by playing any of these specific cards, you kind of tell your opponent what you're doing. So when that happens, if they're not favored in that matchup or they just don't like their position against this type of deck, they have a greater chance of leaving after these cards come out. So if you're feeling confident about your game, your location, your stuff, you want to be snapping before these cards come down so that they don't have that read of, oh, I'm playing into this, maybe I should leave. So some of these cards are like Zabu, Sarah, Electro, Mr. Negative. If these cards are coming out, well, a lot of times they're going to want to really leave themselves, right? Because they don't match well into like an early Zabu into something, or they don't match well into a lecture into something. Mr. Negative is a very obvious example where people, if you play Mr. Negative on curve, people will just leave, right? Because they know, oh, I don't want to be playing into a negative on curve. So that's like the more obvious ones. But some of the other ones, Zabu and Lecture, also do that kind of same feeling if you have a really good hand. Next up is Shutdown Cards. So these cards kind of limit your opponent in a meaningful way where it prevents them from doing what they want. So what that just means that is they will stop your opponent in some way which makes the rest of the game awkward. So some of the stuff that is really common is Spider-Man, Professor X, right? When they come down, usually your opponent's like, oh, I lost that lane, I can't do anything. Doctor Octopus and Sandman are also pretty common examples where if it comes out in the right scenarios, oh, that means your opponent can't really do their last turns they want to rock out. And this is why I made the video to Sandman. I think it's a really good shutdown card in the meta right now, but there are other ones that have that same feeling. And then Debris is one of those like lockdown shutdowns where you have to be smart when you play them, but if you can like snipe that fourth spot that your opponent was saving, that can really win you a game by itself. So there's a lot of really cool shutdown cards in the game, and you can really take advantage of it if you're playing correctly or smart to snap before they come out. You have to be careful with Jeff, but yeah, whatever. Next up is combo cards. So these cards combo with other cards, create large point swings. And by playing one of them, you kind of telegrate the other one in the deck. So if you don't want them to be like, oh, I can't play into this combo, you maybe want to snap before the first part of the combo comes out. So some of these examples are Bast, Modark, Black Bolt, Dracula, right? If Ross comes out, you kind of know, oh, they're playing this type of flooding heavy deck. Can I deal with it with an early Bass? Maybe I don't, so they'll leave, right? So Modork, obvious discard engine really gives them a ton of direction and combo. So you definitely don't want to have that come out and they already know they've lost, right? You want to not make them not sure that they've lost. Black Bolt, right, is the common combo for stature. So you play Black Bolt, stature comes out, does a lot of damage, and then Dracula is just a nice combo piece. Also, kind of like an archetype in a sense because it kind of telegraphs what you're trying to do. But in some circumstances, just a combo card where here's maybe 20 points of power that I have to now expect out of nowhere, that kind of thing. So definitely some good pieces for the game and how do you want to be thinking about snapping. Next up, we have this is maybe the most common type of snapping that people do, tech counters. Um, is it tech counters or counter counters? Well, we'll see. But this is definitely one of the most common types where people just have the direct answer to what your opponent's trying to do, and then it's a very obvious, oh, they have a big guy, I Shang-Chi him. Okay, they have a something, I do this tech counter, right? I Killmonger, Juggernaut, Rogue, Enchantress, of course, right? There's a ton of them, and these are the ones where most people snap into, where they're like, oh, I've directly won, but it's good to have that mental knowledge of like, oh, this is why I'm snapping, because it makes sense to reveal that, oh, I can kill your card for free. I probably should snap before I tell them I can kill your card for free. That kind of thing. So those are definitely one of the more common use cases of people snapping correctly, but it's still good to know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And next up is like high percentage cards. So these are cards with a higher than normal chance of being favorable for you. So it's not cards that always work, and that's maybe like why people don't always snap into it. A lot of times you'll see people play the card, it's good, then they'll snap. But if you are putting this card in your deck, then you have to trust that the deck is built around the card doing well. So you have to just say, I'm going to take the risk here because most of the time it's favorable for you, and mathematically, right, if it's favorable for you over time, you should always be taking those odds. So those type of cards are Jubilee, Quake, Ironlight, Lockjaw. Quake, usually, right, you're trying to get a really good location swap in your favor, and you're the one with the knowledge of that it's going to happen while your opponent doesn't. So that kind of thing should be high percentage for you, and you should definitely snap into that. Ironlight's a new card, but it's the quintessential high percentage card. Once Howard comes out, right, it could be like 100%, but a lot of times your deck is built around Ironlight doing well. So when you play it, you should definitely, be feel like it's going to work out for you. And the Lockjaw is very common. Jubilee, same thing, right? You pull something, and the something you pull should be better than your opponent on average. And next up are surprise cards. So these cards are usually cards your opponent not expect all the time, and they usually affect the game in some meaningful way. And they also can adjust how you play the rest of the match. I said munch. This should be match. The rest of the match, whatever. It's not that important. But things like claw, right? A lot of times your opponent won't expect it. Doctor Doom I put in here, even though this card is like so popular, is that I still see people like not expect dooms, and I'm including myself here, where it's such a common card. I love the card, right? And I still are in situations where I'm like, what is he playing, right? And it's like, oh, it's a doom, right? That kind of thing, and then you lose to it, or you're aware of it, and you can take advantage of it, right? So these type of cards, right? Leader is like quintessential surprise card where you're not fully expecting it, and it messes with what you want to do. So these examples are more like of the common surprise cards, but anything like Omega Red, anything your opponent's not really expecting that can affect the game is important, right? Scarlet Witch, right, is another one. I don't know why I don't have Scarlet Witch in here. It's like so perfect for this. But those type of cards really do affect the game in a meaningful way, and they can definitely switch how your opponent wants to play. So that kind of thing you do want to keep in mind. And then next up we have cards like those are like the over ones, but I also wanted to talk about cards you shouldn't snap because they're easily counterable. So there are some cards that kind of fit the bill in some of the examples that we gave you, but I actually don't think you should do it because they're too telegraphed in some ways, and if you snap and your opponent has the counters, you just get heavily punished, right? So even though you could argue that, oh, these cards fit some of the other types that I've talked about, they're just too easily counterable that I don't want to recommend them in that way. And then some of those cards, right? These are not all of them. Are like things like Patriot, things like Wong, things like Storm, things like Wave. So Patriot, right? Obviously, if your opponent's playing Patriot and you have a counter or you have any ongoing denial, right? You it completely shuts you down. Also, Killmonger can do it if you're relying on Ultron, so you do have to be careful. Wong, of course, is one of those very quintessential, easily counterable cards because there's too many ways to just mess with it. Right now, I would say that there's not a lot of decks really playing the counters, but generally, if it becomes meta, right, you'll see a lot of people just shut down Wonks completely. Storm is not something I would snap into, even though you could say it fits the archetype and fits the tech, just because it's such a it's the way it pilots is in such a weird spot where a lot of people can output a ton of power into that storm lane if they want to. And unless you're playing something like Juggernaut, which Juggernaut you could snap with, right? But Storm itself opens up too many problems, and also you can also just be playing Storm in the wrong lane where they'll be very easy to deal with, as well as people are playing things that can just not care about them storming you, right? You could play Dooms, you could play Jeff, things like that. It's surprisingly easy to ignore a flooded location and just do whatever you want anyway. So I can't really recommend that. And then Wave buffs your opponent as well, right? So it opens up all these little things that your opponent might do to counter you, right? You were thinking like if you're a Galactus player, Wave is the snapping turn, and it could be, right, if you know exactly what your opponent's playing. But if your opponent is if you're not playing Galactus and you Wave and they Galactus you out of nowhere, right? Like you've snapped and they're like, haha, you've played my trap card, things like that. And as well as Wave can open up, like if you are playing Galactus yourself and you Wave and they do something like Arrow you or Professor X you, that kind of thing, right? You could really just get wrecked there. So you do have to be careful with the Wave. It's not a always snap or a mostly snap. You have to be very careful and have to use your brain in regards of whether you're going to be snapping there or not. So that type of card is not something I would recommend in itself. So this is just a video I wanted to make, mostly because of Sandman, but it kind of evolved into this, and just like knowing what type of cards you have and like what's your game plan on into snapping. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Take care of yourselves. I've been kind of resting, trying to get the attic fix and stuff like that, and just, you know, also taking a look at MSI for League, but you know how the West does. Anyways, take care of yourselves. Have a nice rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.
Educatedcollins snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel snap. Your skills will be